I'm delighted to be here. Honored to be among your number. I've been promised some tea cakes, so I will be quick. How many folks watched the debate last night? Oh my God. All right. Who thinks President Obama won? Whoa. Governor Romney? Draw. All right, you all are now qualified to be on CNN. And what I thought was so wonderful last night was the clear seriousness with which both men took what they were talking about. There was, interestingly, often you can tell when politicians are performing for a certain slice of the voters, this group of voters or that group of voters. It was pretty clear to me that those were authentic. I should have referenced this last night, Jackson, about 5 years ago, and I realized later that I should have saved Jackson for my retirement, because whenever he got mad at someone, he just shot them. And so there was kind of an intrinsic narrative arc to that. But interesting. From the founding, to the age of Jackson, to the Civil War, to World War II, to the Culture Wars of the 60s, all the way through to recent years, America has always been divided. We are made for argument. To some extent, the system we have is perfectly constructed to perpetuate arguments as opposed to really resolving problems once and for all. And that's because resolving problems once and for all is really tough. Because what I may think is a great solution, you may think is the worst idea you've ever heard. The great personalities in our political history often have this effect. Very few political personalities ever have 60 or 65% of the country with them at any one time. It just doesn't happen. It happens every once in a while. Ronald Reagan in 1980 won a fairly substantial election. Then he won a big re-election in 1984, 49 states. But that's the exception that proves the rule. More often than not, we are a very closely divided country. I can tell that story to y'all, sorry. It's very funny, and when you're older, Augusta said somehow had written something in a week that led Mr. O'Reilly to declare that I was the pinhead of the week. And he has a feature called Pinheads and Patriots. Y'all know this? Oh my God, y'all really don't. Okay. I didn't know this at the time. So, Friday nights there's a pinhead and there's a patriot, right? So I was the pinhead of the week. The patriot of the week was Jessica Simpson. Now I had always wanted to be that close to Jessica Simpson, but that was not the setting in which I was looking for that. So he had called me O'Reilly called me a hard left pinhead. And so when I went into the office the next week, one of my colleagues said, he said you're hard left. You're not hard left. The pinhead part was left standing. Here's a fun thing to do to your teachers that might get them off message or off your curriculum plan for a moment. What is, if you had to rank them, what are the 2 or 3 most important single events in human history? It's a fun game to play. Again, if you're a dork, which not that you all are, but if you want to do something dorky. My argument is that it's the crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth in 33 AD and the Second World War are the top 2. That an event that determines how we tell time is of such intrinsic enormous importance. You know why it's 2012? It's 2012 because it's 2012 years after we think the date of Jesus' birth. World War II gave us the power to end human life as we know it, with the splitting of the atom and the beginning of the nuclear arms race. So it's a fun game to play. Again, not like I Spy, maybe not that much fun, but this is why my children love me. So in the car, we'll say, no, we're going to play human history. Damn it, we're not watching Fairytopia again. And so I followed it twisted path that has led me to lecturing you about these things 40 years later, whatever it is. But what I did is I read a lot of books, and being able to, I do what I do for a living in writing about politics because it was the only way I could think of to combine the two things I cared about most, which were books and writing and literature and politics. And so to combine those two, I felt incredibly lucky. Those things changed because, not because some monumental figure issued an edict to change it. It changed because flawed human leaders and flawed human followers decided enough was enough. And for 15 minutes, maybe no more, for 15 minutes they rose above, they transcended those limitations and left the world a better place. And what should be inspiring, I hope to all of you all, is that it has happened before, and therefore, in your hands, it will happen again. Understand what they did. Not so that we can feel morally superior, but that we might then become more aware of what we may be doing right now, that somebody 30 years from now is going to say, I can't believe they did that. Arthur Schlesinger is a great historian who died a few years ago, a wonderful man. He used to say that self-righteousness in retrospect is easy. And I agree with that. One of the points of history is to prepare ourselves, to arm ourselves to address the moral problems of our own time. Thank you very much.